Good morning to each and everyone. My report is all about the TCP/IP protocols. In this chapter, we will examine the features of TCP/IP or Transmission Control Protocol Internet Protocol Suite. TCP/IP protocol suite is unquestionably one of the most popular networking protocols ever developed. TCP/IP has been used since 1960s as a method to connect large mainframe computers together to share information among the research community and the Department of Defense. The ISO or OSI model breaks network communication down into 7 layers. In contrast, the TCP/IP model contains only 5 layers. OSI Reference Model Review. First, application. Allows user to transfer files, send email, and etc. Only layers that user can communicate directly. Key features are ease of use and functionality. Next, presentation. Standardized data encoding and decoding, data compression, data encryption, and description. Next session, manage user session, report upper layer errors, support remote procedure call activities. Transport, connection management, error and flow control, connection less unreliable. Next, network, inter-network packet routing, minimize subnet congestion, resolve difference between subnets. Next, data link, network access control, MAC address, packet framing, error, and flow control. Next, physical. Moves bits across a physical medium interface between network medium and network devices. Defines electrical and mechanical characteristics of LAN. The different protocols that make up the TCP/IP suite. This includes IP, TCP, UDP, ARP, and RARP, as well as support protocols the DNS, BOOTP, TFTP, DHCP, ICMP, SMTP, HTTPS, and NTP. The IP address consists of 32 bits numbered divided into 4 sections, each containing 8 bits. These 4 sections are called octets and may contain a decimal value in the range 0 to 255. The 4 values from each section are separated by periods in the IP address. This is called dotted decimal notation. The next slide shows an example of dotted decimal notation illustrating a Class C Ethernet address. Kanang naa sa taas figure 811 mao na ang Class C network IP address. Then kanang naa sa silong mao na ang IP address classes. So, the transmission control protocols define a standard way that two computers can reliably communicate together over interconnected networks. Applications using TCP establish connection with each other through the use of predefined ports or sockets. TCP provides the communication link between the application program and IP. A set of function calls provide an application process a number of different options. TCP is used to transfer a stream of data in each direction between the application by packaging some data into segments for transmission through the network. When a user needs to be sure that all the data has been sent to the destination computer, a special function called push is defined. So, mao ni ang format sa TCP datagram. Next is the User Datagram Protocol or UDP. UDP is a connectionless and unreliable. Data are transmitted with no acknowledgement of whether it is received or not. It is reliable as the IP datagram it is encapsulated. There are many applications that do not require the additional overhead and complexity of TCP handshaking, such as the domain name, the dynamic host configuration protocol, and network games. So, mauni ang UDP datagram format. Sunod, Address Resolution Protocol and Reverse Address Resolution Protocol. The Address Resolution Protocol uses a directed broadcast message to obtain the MAC address for a given address. Once the ARP reply has been received, it is possible for the source computer and first hop or the first router destination to communicate directly. The Reverse Address Resolution Protocol performs the opposite of ARP, providing the IP address for a specific MAC address. The message format for ARP is the same as the ARP message. RARP is usually performed on these last computer workstations that do not have any other way of obtaining an IP address. A RARP server is used to perform the required translation. Note that ARP is not a routable protocol and can only be used locate machine for local network. So kini ang ARP RARP message format. And now let's proceed to TCP/IP support protocols. So the first is Domain Name Service. The Domain Name Service provides the means to convert from a host name to an IP address and vice versa. Instead of using IP address 204.210.133.51, we may instead enter raycast.rwa.com as the host name. Typically, a DNS server application running on the local network has the responsibility of converting names to an IP addresses. So DNS can be transported using TCP or UDP. So mauni ang header format of DNS. Next is the Bootstrap protocol. Bootstrap protocol is the routable UDP protocol that allows a disk/workstation to discover its own IP address, discover the IP address of a BOOTP server, specify a file to be downloaded via TFTP and executed. Two types of BOOTP, the boot request and boot replies. Boot request message is used by BOOTP server to look up the client IP address. This IP address is returned to the client in your IP address field of a boot reply message. The number of seconds field indicates the number of seconds since the initial boot request from the client. So mauni ang BOOTP header organization. Trivial FTP. The TFTP protocol is a simple file transfer protocol compared to FTP that is used when it is not necessary to authenticate the user information or view the directory structure. TFTP is used to send files from a server, UDP port 69 or UDP port 1758, which is used for multicast messages to disk/workstations, communication servers, and other network devices on a network that uses TFTP. Mauni ang TFTP header format. Next is the Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. DHCP stands for Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, is a protocol for dynamically assigning IP addresses to devices on a network during the bootstrap process. It is a device may be assigned a different IP address every time it connects to the network. Sometimes a computer's IP address can even change while it is connected to the network. DHCP addressing simplifies network administration because the software keeps track of IP addresses rather than requiring an administrator to manage the task. Next is ICMP. An error contained in an ICMP message may or may not be returned to the sender due to use of the UDP as the transport protocol. If an ICMP message is discarded, no ICMP error message is generated. This is because of specific rule in the implementation that prohibits error messages being generated about other error messages. So mao ni ang ICMP message format. Next is the Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. The Simple Mail Transfer Protocol is responsible for routing electronic mail on the Internet using TCP and IP. The process usually requires connecting to a remote computer and transferring the email message, but due to problems with the network or remote computer, messages can be temporarily undeliverable. Next is the Simple Network Management Protocol. Network managers responsible for monitoring and controlling the network hardware and software use the Simple Network Management Protocol. SNMP defines the format and meaning of messages exchanged by the manager and agents. The network manager uses SNMP to interrogate network devices in order to determine their status and retrieve statistical information. Next is the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. The Hypertext Transfer Protocol over secure socket layer is used to exchange encrypted web page between a client-server connection. Originally developed by Netscape, HTTPS is now included in a Microsoft and most other web server products. HTTPS interacts with the TCP/IP protocol stack between the HTTP application layer and TCP layer. HTTPS uses the RSA secure encryption decryption technique which is used under license. So mao ni ang sequence of HTTP messages to display a web page. Next is Network Time Protocol. The Network Time Protocol, developed by David Mills of the University of Delaware, provides a simple way to synchronize the time of multiple computers on a network, even across the Internet. The cornerstone of NTP is the reliance on a stratum zero timing source such as atomic radio clock or GPS satellite clock that receive and decodes timing information transmitted from the atomic clock maintained by NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. The difference between IP address and MAC address. The main difference between IP address and MAC address is that MAC address is used to ensure the physical address of a computer. It is uniquely identifies the device on a network. MAC stands for Media Access Control, while IP address used to uniquely identifies the connection of network with that device take part in a network. So the table shows the rule of ping, tracert, NBTstat, and netstat. Ping is used to verify connectivity at an IP level to a second TCP/IP device. It does this by transmitting Internet Control Message Protocol echo request messages and waits for a return message. Tracert or traceroute is a TCP/IP application that determines the path through the network to a destination entered by the user. Creative use of ICMP messages is the basis for the traceroute application. NBTstat provides information on the state of NetBIOS over TCP/IP connections that exist within a Windows computer. These connections are used for various activities such as file transfers between map drives and computers on the LAN. Netstat display protocol statistic and current TCP/IP network connection. IP version 6. IP address size increases from a 32 bits in IPv4 to 128 in IPv6 to support more levels of addressing hierarchy. In addition, IPv6 provides many more addressable IPv6 systems. IPv6 addresses are assigned to interfaces rather than to nodes in recognition that a node can have more than one interface. Next is Protocol Analyzer. Protocol Analyzer or sniffers are hardware or software devices that listen to the traffic on a network and capture various packets for examination. Hardware Analyzer also double as cable tester. Ethereal display on an ongoing update of network traffic statistic allow packets to be captured, disassembled, and saved, and can also transmit packets to the facilitate testing and troubleshooting.